Hello, hello, hello. I know it's been a long time. Welcome back to the Black Sanctuary Inc. I am Dr. Jordan, the community's favorite professor, and today I have a special guest with me. I have my grandmother, affectionately known as Grandma Gladys, and we're going to do a session today called My Grandma Our Griot. Can you say hi to the people, Grandma?
Hi.
Now, I like to say that my grandmother is better than everybody's grandmother because, first of all, I want y'all to get a good look at my grandma. Grandma, lean up into the camera just a little bit. I want them to see how beautiful you are. This young lady is 90 years old. Okay, so 90 years of history, 90 years of living, 90 years of experience. And I just wanted to have a very candid conversation today with my grandma just about life in general and some of the things that she's experienced growing up. So, with that, Grandma, I want you to go ahead and introduce yourself to the people. Tell them your name. I've already told them how old you were, but if you want to reiterate that, and then just a couple of things about yourself, maybe like where you were born, um, and something that maybe stuck out that's a very memorable moment of your life.
Well, my name is Gladys Stevens Smith Lee. I'm known as Evangelist Lee and Mother Lee of my church. And I have been here 90 years, seen a lot of things, and been a lot of places.
You want to tell them recently a place that you went for your 89th birthday and the inspiration for that?
I went to Rome, Italy,
And why'd you want to go to Rome, Grandma?
because I wanted to go where Paul walked in the Bible. Who was Saul before his name was turned to Paul.
Hmm. And what was so special about that to you?
Especially about it was beautiful. Everywhere he went, I went.
And then for the people who will be watching this later on, can you tell them a little bit about how you got around while you were in Rome?
Well, the first thing we did when we got there, we got an Uber, uh, take us to our hotels. Then from our hotels, we get up early in the morning and go downtown to where they used to wrestle at Coliseum. That's what it is.
Mm-hmm.
We walked around and we ate and we walked. And then we went over to another city and we saw the Leaning Tower.
Hmm.
Mhm.
And then for those who don't know, my grandmother walked the whole entire way. She kept up with all of the people, young and old. So again, my grandmother is the bomb. So I wanted to do this conversation because I just feel like you are a part of a special community that gets to walk around, and people don't always see just how special and amazing you are. Right now, we're living in a time where I know for myself, I take advantage of a lot of things, and there are some things that I just think that happened so long ago in history. But one day, we were all together for Thanksgiving, and you start telling a story about when things were desegregated, and you were talking about how you took your mother to the lunch counter, and I remember just thinking like, wow, so this is my grandmother, and she's talking about a time in her mother's life that was so vivid, that was so different from anything I could ever imagine. So for you all who don't know, my grandmother has lived through a time to see the first African American president, but she also lived back when that wasn't even a thought at one particular time. So she lived in a time and space where things were segregated. So, Grandma, I want you to just talk a little bit about that experience. You were sharing with us at Thanksgiving about the time when things got desegregated and you wanted to take your mother to a lunch counter.
Right. Well, I say around about 1902, when the segregation was that the white people had the white fountain and the white bathroom, and the black people had the black fountain and the black bathrooms. And at that particular time, you couldn't vote. You couldn't. You couldn't go to. You could go to the gas station, but you couldn't go to the bathrooms. You could get the gas, but you couldn't get the gas. You couldn't get what you wanted to get. Well, people could go to the restaurants. We couldn't go. Where they could go to the hotels, you could go now. You couldn't go back in those days. So this particular time, Martin Luther King had made it plain, and I think it was 1963. He had made it plain that we was free. We could go and eat anywhere we wanted to go. And at that time, we had Chris, Corey's, and Woolworths. And this particular time, I told my mother I'm gonna take her downtown in Jacksonville, Florida, down to Chris' store. And she said, "No, we can't go because they don't allow us." And no, Martin Luther King have opened up the door where we can go eat now. She said, "I don't think we can." I said, "Come on, Mama." So I took my mama and we went to Chris. We set up on the counter stool and I told them what I wanted. I told them I wanted 2 hot dogs, French fries. I wanted the root beer and she wanted the orange soda. And when we went up there, they waited on us and they asked us what did we want. And I told them, I said, I want 2 hot dogs, French fries, beer, and she wanted orange soda. And we sat there and we ate, and the meal didn't cost that much. I guess both of us together was $3.95, something like
I,
that. And then we walked out of the store, and I told my mom, I said, I told you we could eat there. And she said, no, I didn't think we could, but I told her that Martin Luther King had opened up the door for us.
wow. So, all before that, there was no going just walking up to a lunch counter and saying, "Hey, I would like to order a soda and a hot dog." So, how did it make you feel on that day being able to take your mother to a lunch counter and you guys could actually eat? Was it scary? Did it feel good? Um,
It felt good because, no, I wasn't scared because I told her she was afraid. But I wasn't afraid. I said, we're going to sit up here on this stool or on this counter. And the lady that waited on us, she was very nice. She asked us what would we like to have, and I told her.
So why was, and that would have been my great grandmother. So my great grandmother, guys, lived to be 100 years old. Isn't that correct?
Yes,
So she lived to be 100 years old. So why was she so afraid?
because in her time she couldn't do anything either. You couldn't go. Just like I said, we couldn't go to the nice hotels y'all go to now. We couldn't go to the restaurants. We had a Howard Johnson that we could go to. It had the hotel and the diner together. You go to that, but that was all you go to because when I came in 1953 in West Palm Beach, Florida, all blacks had their own businesses. They had their own bar, they had their own barber shop, they had their own grocery stores, they had their own housing, their own gas stations. They had everything. Black people had it when I came in 1953.
And so over time, things have changed. So were there any particular like real reasons for before things changed for someone to be afraid of of breaking any of the rules that said that black people could or could not do anything? Was there any like real consequences, or did you know anybody who ever suffered because they decided not to follow the rules?
Not really, but we just knew we couldn't do it, and we didn't do it because it was against the law. Back in those days, they call us colored people. They didn't call you African American like they do now. They call you colored, and you couldn't, you couldn't do the things you do today. I mean, you couldn't really do anything to after I think after the 70s or 80s. We was bond, we was in bondage. We had to stay in our own little world.
So did that make you feel any kind of way, like to know that it was two different kind of worlds, or was it just that's the way that it was? So
No,
you did.
well, it was normal to me because I was a child and I didn't understand what my grandmother was going through. So it was normal to me not to go anywhere but in our own neighborhoods. So I didn't know the difference.
So when things changed, it was easy for you to just kind of go ahead and go with the flow since you didn't.
Right, right. That's when doors began to open up. You began to go to the restaurants. You began to get a hotel where you wanted to go. You began to travel in the way you wanted to go. You didn't have the fountains no more. They took that away, and we all started drinking out the same fountains after that.
Okay. So how did you feel though? Did you ever feel any kind of way seeing two fountains, one saying colored, one saying white, actually living through that?
Yeah, we felt kind of segregated because uh, they didn't allow us well, the white was on one side and the black was on the other side. Sometimes we would sneak and sometimes going to get some of their water. It says white because they said white. We would go sometime and get it, but we know we wasn't allowed. If you yesterday they stuff you would go to jail. That's just how the law was.
Did you have any friends who ever went to jail or got in trouble because they broke those types of rules?
No, no, hold on.
Say y'all you lived pretty humble and rule abiding life.
Yes.
Very
Oh
good.
yeah. Hmm.
So during this time, then, did you ever feel at any point of time in your childhood, like, well, how old were you, first of all, when desegregation happened? So, how old were you?
Well, I was born in 1934, and my grandmama took me to New York when I was 9 months old. So I was in New York City. So I think that segregation didn't come until I came to Florida to meet my mother in 1946. That's when I began to see a segregation because one day I got on a bus, and I know in New York City you could sit anywhere you wanted to sit, for the parking did it. And white, black, Spanish, anybody could sit anywhere you want to sit. And I'll never forget, I got on a bus and it says colored from the rear and white from the front. And I sat to the front, and the bus driver told me, "Well, ma'am, can you read?" It says colored from the rear and the white to the front. I said, "Well, in New York City, you can sit wherever you want to sit." He said, "Well, you're not in New York City, you're in Florida. So you have to go to the back." And I've been going to the back ever since.
Hmm. So, at that moment, because that is two totally different ways of living. If you were in New York City and things were one way, and then to come to Florida and blatantly, there's like, this is the way it is. Did that make you feel some type of way going from being able to just be free and move around to all of a sudden somebody telling you you have to now just sit in the back?
Yeah, I told the man, I said, "Well, we don't do that in New York." He said, "Well, you're not in New York." And from that day to this day, I would get on the bus, sit in the rail, like they say, and they wouldn't let you off on the front. They let you off on the side. So that's the way I did it until we was able to sit in the way we wanted.
Hmm.
And that
So
was
this,
back in 1947 up until
wow.
1951.
So 1947 and then all the
So
way
1951.
to 1971.
In
Wow.
1951, because I was one. I wouldn't catch the bus. I would walk after that.
Okay. And was it any particular reason why you would walk, or
I'd just rather walk than have to be bothered with the bus driver.
so too much? So,
Yeah.
question. So nowadays, like a lot of the things that we have, things have been desegregated. Like I said, I know for my generation, we take advantage of a lot of different things. And having lived through that, and then now we're kind of in a space where there's a lot of talk about different things about taking us back to the good old days, or making, America like it was before. Um, with things like voters' rights um, being in a space where we could possibly go back to a time where maybe we don't have the same voting rights. How do you feel about that, or do you even think that that's actually possible?
The first time I think I started voting in ninth, can't remember the date. I think somewhere in the 70s. And we had to do Republican. You couldn't do Democrat, not back in those days.
Okay, and then they switched it somewhere along
They
the way.
switched it, and they said from now on you have to be a Democrat.
Okay, so do you remember like the first time you voted and how you felt about that? Did you feel any kind of way about having the right to vote?
No, one day I was on the job and everybody was talking they gonna vote. And so I said, well, I want to vote too since our four parents suffered so hard and went through so much problem. So well, I'm gonna vote. So I think I started voting in the 70s, and first time I voted, I went to the school and I voted. And I registered voter ever since.
And did it make you feel kind of proud or anything like that,
Yeah,
knowing that you
yeah.
were
I was
able
proud
to?
I could call myself a voter.
Because did your mother ever get the right to vote?
I wouldn't know. She was sickly all her life.
Yeah, so to be able to do something that maybe she could not have done. I was doing the math, and I think you were born 69 years after slavery was ended. Did you know that?
No,
You didn't know that?
no.
So I always like to try to do the math to see, like how, because sometimes people are like, oh, that was so long ago. But like, you are alive and well. And y'all, my grandma again is like the best grandma out. Her little 2-year-old nephew, not nephew, grandson is downstairs and she's running circles around him instead of him running on her. Um,
Oh,
she keeps up with all of her great grands. I said all that to say, shit, you were born 69 years after slavery ended.
okay.
Do you ever did you ever think about stuff like that, or like had you ever really heard anything about slavery as you were coming up and thought that
No,
it
no,
impacted your life
no.
in any kind of way?
No, I didn't know nothing about it. They didn't teach you
Really?
that in school. They taught you about George Washington, Abraham Lincoln.
So, what about like the books and stuff? Did you see people that looked like you in your books while you were learning?
No, 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 none.
Wow, so now that we are in an age where it's, Google, you can figure out things, you can see a lot of things. We were having a conversation about just some of the discoveries of different people who invented things. Um, how do you feel about, you know, your quality of education then versus the access to things you have now? Do you want to learn more about those people or people that might have looked like you?
Going to school, we didn't think about it until my grandchildren started going to school. My children started going to school. That's when I saw a difference.
Do you think that difference was helpful, or is just how it is?
That's just how it was. But I don't see much difference today. They still teaching them about their way. They don't teach us about our culture.
Do you think that we need to learn about our culture and our way?
Yes, we should have learned it even when I went to school.
So today we went to the African American Museum of Culture and History, and I might be switching the words around a little bit. But how did you feel? Because that was a lot of education, and you can go back so many times and still learn new stuff. So how did you feel going there and seeing some of the information that you saw today?
Oh, I felt hurt because knowing how they came over here in the United States and how they was bruised and beaten and I saw one place there where the man went around the wheel. He was tobacco and he was like the mule. They had to tie him and he had to go round and around the circle. I felt bad about that. And then he had to work 10 hours a day. That's it. That kind of I know kind of what they went through. They suffered a lot for us to be free from them.
So, is there anything else you would like to learn now that knowing that there is information out there and that is definitely a difference in how it's given? Is there anything that you would want to know or learn more about?
But I like to know that my great grandchildren would get to know that their ancestors and they where they came from. I would like for them to know that.
Okay. And why
Yeah,
would that be?
something that I didn't learn in my time. I hope that my great grandchildren can learn about where they came from and what hardship that our folk parents went
And what kind of lesson do you think, if they learned that, what do you think that would do for them?
through. I think it would change their perspective how they live today.
How so?
I think they would be more malleable. They'll be more concerned about one another and they'll start loving one another and and living together better. But we was
Okay.
in bondage
Well,
when they was in slavery.
and do you think that going back, do you think that that is a good solution? Like, I know there are a lot of people saying they want to go back, campaign now with Make America Great Again. Do you think that that would be something that would help our generation?
No, you don't want to go back there because you had Ku Klux Klans back there in my days. And they didn't like black people. They burn you and put crosses in front of your houses, run your family out of town. So you don't want to go back there. You want to go forward. Because things are better for people than they was back then in my days. So you don't want to go
And
back to that.
so you said, no, not going back to
No, no, you don't want to go back to that because it was even torture in my days. You couldn't go a lot of places, you couldn't do a lot of things, you couldn't say a lot of things because you know, you just couldn't. It was the law.
I mean, there's some people who say that, oh, well, I would not have abided by those laws. I would have said this or I would have did that. Can you see
No, no, you
that?
couldn't do that because it was a law that you couldn't talk back really. So you have to abide by their laws or they'll put you in jail.
So it just wasn't just that simple to say that I'm not going to follow the law.
Right, that's what. But if you didn't and you didn't abide by the law, they would put you in jail.
Hmm. Wow. So we're gonna take it and kind of wrap it up here. Grandma, you have been great. I still want to pick your brain on so many more things, but I just wanted to take a little bit of time and share the love that I get on a regular basis with the world. So many times people don't sit and take the time to listen. You have 90 years worth of history, like living right here with you. Sometimes people tend to think, oh, 90 years? That was so, so long ago. But really, it wasn't. And you're still here, a living testimony. And how old do you plan on getting to be, Grandma?
100, honey, because 99 and a half just won't. You got to make 100.
I know that's right. So that's the goal. We have longevity in our genes. Her
And
mother,
I just, yes.
yeah, her mother lived to be 100. Her mother's brother lived to be 102. So we have all made this pact that we got to at least see 100. So in that
My,
time,
my brother made it to 87, and my auntie made it to 87.
so yeah, so 80 plus and going. So we're gonna keep it. We're gonna keep it going. So grandma, y'all can say you have to at least be around for about 120 because I need you to. I don't know. I just want you around.
Well, I don't want to get to mention. No, I want to live it.
No, I want you just like this, Grandma. I know. I want you to be running. You will you stay here? Be running, jumping, and just hanging out with us, having a good time.
Yeah, but I might have dementia. I won't probably won't know.
We
Okay,
ain't
well,
gonna that on
that's
you.
good
No,
enough.
we're not gonna have dementia. Okay.
To make
All
a
right.
century, that's good enough.
Okay. Well, I can't help it. I'm gonna want you to be around as long as possible because I love you so much. And I
I
just
love you
love
too.
having our conversations and talking. And I thank you for sitting and taking this time out with me and sharing with the rest of the world. Just a glimpse of what it was like in your life. Is there anything before we close out, any special marker or occasion in your life that happened that um just made you feel like, wow, like this is I'm glad to be alive.
Well, I thank God every morning when I wake up to let me have my life, my health, and my strength. Thanking God that I got my eyes, I can see, I got my ears, I can hear, I got my mouth, I can speak God's word, and that I can still walk, and I can still go places where I need to go. I can go to the grocery store. I can go to church by myself. I can go to my children's house. So I just feel good about it because God has spared me to do all these things.
All right. Well, amen. There's nothing like being in your right mind with good health and
Right.
good strength. Well, that will be all for today. Thank you for tuning in with the community's favorite professor. I am Dr. Jordan, and I just wanted to take some time out to introduce the world to my grandmother, and she is 90 years old, so she's my grandmother and our griot. So maybe we can again some other time. Maybe there'll be questions. Um, but thank you again, and until next time.
Peace out.
Peace out.